Las Vegas, February 1973. The sleepless city glowed under the endless neon lights, painting the sky with streaks of color that never faded, night after night. Music and laughter echoed beneath those brilliant domes, as if every sorrow was hidden away behind the mesmerizing dances of the Strip. For Elvis Presley, the stage was more than a place to perform. It was where he sacrificed his health, his youth, and even his heart for millions of devoted fans. Just a month earlier, Elvis had dazzled the world with his live broadcast, Aloha, from Hawaii concert, cementing his name as a global legend. But when he returned to Las Vegas, the place that once crowned him the king of rock and roll, Elvis was no longer the rebellious young man he used to be. At 40, he was struggling with relentless throat pain, ever-increasing doses of medication, and, above all, a deepening loneliness in his soul after his divorce from Priscilla. On the surface, Elvis still strode onto the stage in his iconic white jumpsuit, flashing that radiant smile and belting out his powerful voice. Yet behind the spotlights, he withdrew into the quiet of his dressing room, facing wounds that never truly healed. Every night on stage was a battle not just with illness, but with an emptiness that seemed endless. Fans from all over the world crowded into every seat, silently hoping for an unforgettable night. They had no idea that, behind the velvet curtains, Elvis was pushing himself through every high note, every stabbing pain in his chest, simply to avoid disappointing those who loved him most. And then, that night, a night seemingly like any other, began with an omen no one could have foreseen. In the front row, a group of 4 men and a woman drew attention with their strange demeanor, cold gazes, and calculated gestures. At first, it was just small disturbances, the clink of beer bottles, soft whispers, nothing anyone paid much attention to. But soon, empty bottles were thrown onto the stage. Rolling at the feet of the opening comedian, unease crept into the hall, every eye turning toward the group of strangers. Moments later, the woman stood up, without hurry, without drama. She calmly stepped onto the stage, gently removed Elvis's scarf, draped it around her own shoulders, and quietly returned, handing the scarf to the man beside her. The entire auditorium seemed to hold its breath. No applause, no shouts, only a chilling tension spreading through the crowd. With the composure of a star who had weathered every storm, Elvis kept his smile, kept performing, but in his eyes there was a hint of worry, a flicker of caution, and, above all, a profound loneliness in the midst of the roaring crowd. That fateful night, though it had only just begun, became a fragile border between light and darkness, between music and looming danger, for behind the glamour, no one truly knew how many times this artist had braced himself against pain, fear, and threats without a name. As the music soared, the auditorium seemed to awaken beneath the blazing lights. The glow fell on Elvis's face, a man who appeared invincible, yet whose eyes carried shadows no one had ever truly seen. Every time he sang, he pushed past pain. Every step was a silent reminder to himself, keep going. Hold tight to the image of the king of rock and roll in the eyes of his fans. That night, as the crowd sang along to Suspicious Minds, no one realized that in their midst, danger was drawing closer. The strange group still sat silently, not cheering, not smiling, just watching the stage with an icy gaze. In a sudden, chilling moment, 2 of them shot up, moving determinedly toward the stage. their intent impossible to mistake. The whole room seemed to hold its breath, hearts pounding in thick, electric fear. Elvis kept singing, but a look of alertness flashed in his eyes. His body tensed and ready to react. As the two strangers reached the stage, everything unfolded like a slow-motion film. Elvis spun, unleashing karate moves honed over years of discipline, sending one man flying off the platform. The crowd reeled in shock, but before they could recover, the rest of the group surged forward, plunging the hall into chaos never before seen. His loyal bodyguards, Jerry Schilling, Red West, Sonny West, stormed the stage like a force of nature, fiercely determined to protect their friend. The dazzling stage became a real battlefield, music drowned by screams, running feet, and the pounding hearts of thousands watching in horror. Elvis stood in the center of the storm, no longer just an artist, but a true warrior, strong, courageous, but also isolated and wounded. Below, eyes were glued to him in both worry and admiration. They had come for an unforgettable night of music, but never imagined they would witness a moment when Elvis was both star and survivor, fighting for his own safety on the stage of his life. When the turmoil finally faded, the crowd erupted in thunderous applause, not only for the music, but for the bravery, the strength, and the spirit of a man who faced his challenges head-on. But deep inside, Elvis's soul, that night left a fresh scar, a reminder that behind every light, storms can always be waiting. The chaos on stage slowly faded, but backstage, a silent storm continued to rage. The thunderous applause outside only heightened the suffocating silence in the dressing room. Elvis walked in slowly, his face still etched with shock, his hands trembling with the last rushes of adrenaline. The team looked at him in silence, no one daring to speak. The atmosphere was heavy. Everyone understood that tonight's attack hadn't just disrupted a performance, but had dug deeper into the heart of a man already scarred by too much loneliness. Elvis paced the room, unable to sit still, his eyes filled with sadness and anger, not just because of the attack, but the helplessness of feeling unsafe on the very stage he once called his second home. Inside, his anxieties grew. Was this a random act by drunk fans? Or was there something darker lurking behind it? Painful memories of a broken marriage, the name Mike Stone, betrayal and heartbreak flooded back like a violent storm. The fear of being unloved, the fear of being hunted, the fear of having no one truly protect him, all pressed down on Elvis, leaving him breathless. His bodyguards and close friends tried to calm him, urging him not to let negative thoughts take over. They advised him to trust the evidence, to wait for the police, not to let ghosts of the past cloud his mind. Eventually, the police confirmed the attackers were just overexcited. Drunken fans, no conspiracy, no even plot. But even that truth could not soothe the pain inside. Elvis sat in silence, hands tightly clasped, staring out into the night. Rationally, he knew he was safe, but his heart kept bleeding. It was the utter loneliness of an artist who had seen both glory and isolation, and tonight, he realized even the stage he loved could become the most dangerous place of all. Yet somehow, through sheer courage and professionalism, Elvis stood up again. He returned to the stage, his smile gentle, though his eyes were still filled with sorrow. He bowed to the audience, thanking them for staying, for trusting and loving him no matter what had just happened. The music started once more, and Elvis's voice was deeper, more fragile, carrying the weight of an ocean of unspoken emotion. The hall fell silent, then burst into a wave of feeling. They knew that tonight, they were not just listening to Elvis sing, but witnessing a great soul battling pain, rising from the depths of fear to shine again for those who loved his music. That night ended, but its echoes lingered in the hearts of thousands who witnessed the king of rock and roll fall and then rise again on the stage of his own life. Someone later recalled, "We saw a different Elvis, not just a legend, but a man with a broken heart, still trying to sing his final song to the very end." Amid the endless applause, tears fell in the shadows. Tears from those who understood that behind the spotlight, Elvis was just a man, with pain, with fear, and a desperate longing for love and peace like anyone else. After the show, many fans couldn't bear to leave. They lingered, standing in silence before the now darkened stage, hoping to feel the lingering presence of the immortal man who had just stood there. For them, that night was more than music. It was a testament to the spiritual strength and endurance of a great soul battling wounds that would never heal. In a quiet corner backstage, Elvis sat in silence, his trembling hand wiping away the makeup blurred by sweat and tears. He remembered his youth, the years when he sang for joy, not just to chase away fear, perhaps. Never before had he felt so alone, as though, despite the endless love of his fans, his heart was still weighed down by unanswered questions. That night, Elvis wrote a few brief lines in his diary. "Some wounds can't be seen, but I must stand up, must sing not just for myself, but for everyone out there who is hurting." The story of that Las Vegas night quickly spread across America, then the world. But what lingered was not the karate strike or the images of bodyguards struggling with the attackers. It was the moment when an artist looked up, took a deep breath, and sang on, even as his heart was breaking, because that is the strange, saving power of music and the love of the audience to carry a soul through darkness, so that every song becomes a confession, a prayer for one true night to live as oneself. Years later, when people recalled that fateful night in Las Vegas, those who were there spoke of it with trembling voices. It was not just a concert, but the battle of a fragile yet resilient soul, a testimony to the power of art and the unconditional love of fans for their idol. Elvis, with a heart full of scars, dared to face his fears, lift his head in the face of danger, and move through a moment when darkness seemed to have won. He showed that sometimes courage is not about the absence of fear, but the willingness to rise and keep singing through pain, watched by thousands of eyes and carried in the silent prayers of millions. From that night onward, every note Elvis sang carried the echo of that experience where music was no longer just a show, but a sharing of spirit. Each song imbued with love, gratitude, and unfinished dreams. They say that after all the lights and applause, only sincerity remains, and that is what made Elvis immortal in the hearts of millions. For those who were there, that night became a symbol of hope. They carried Elvis's story as a reminder. Each of us has our silent wounds, but as long as we have faith and love, we can rise. We can keep singing for ourselves and for those we cherish. Life may not have given Elvis a perfect ending, but he left the world with a lesson that never grows old. No matter how many times you fall, no matter how dark it gets, have the courage to keep singing, because somewhere out there, millions of hearts are quietly praying for you. Late at night in Las Vegas, the lights are out. The applause has faded into the vast emptiness. Yet somewhere, the echo of a voice of pain, courage, and quiet love still lingers, like the whispers of restless souls who never truly sleep. Beyond the glitter, beyond the music, beyond those dazzling moments on stage, Elvis Presley left the world not only an immortal legacy of songs, he left a story of a fragile soul's resilience, of gratitude, loneliness, and the unending yearning to be loved, to be true, even when battered by the storms of life. Perhaps within each of us, there is a Las Vegas night of our own, a moment when we must face wounds no one else can see. The fear of being forgotten, the pain of standing alone in a crowd. But just like Elvis, if we dare to rise, to sing, to believe in love, then, even if only for one night, we become legends in the heart of someone out there, behind the limelight, beyond the stage lights. There are always stories left untold. If this story moved you, please like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment so we can keep alive the everlasting echoes of immortal souls.